Good evening, everybody. I'm so delighted to see so many gorgeous faces here tonight. I'm Matthew Wright-Simon. I'm delighted to be your host this evening. Now, you've destroyed the pizzas and the soup and everything else, but if you could please come and fill these seats. I've counted the number of buttocks and I've divided by 2, and you're going to have to be quick to get a seat for both of them. So please, there's a few seats here at the front. Please feel free to be right. We won't be getting any volunteers to do anything weird if you come up the front. Lovely, thank you. Just while we're getting organised, I want to give a big thank you to Alana, who's our videographer tonight, who also came in as a tech support person, and also Craig Wilkins, who you'll hear from as well, who went well beyond the brief to help with some technical issues as well. And also Bryce, g'day Bryce, is taking photographs tonight. You probably worked out that this is being photographed and videoed, and this is being recorded for the people who can't be here. Okay. Gosh, everyone's sitting here. That's fantastic. Great. Good evening. Namani. Namani, aye. Great. It's great to be here in Tanganyanga. A special big welcome to the people who've come from interstate. We're on Kaurna country. So the Kaurna people are the traditional owners of this amazing part of the world, place of conferences and togetherness, and we're in that spirit tonight. And I really do want to acknowledge and show my respect for all First Nations people, the Kaurna people, and also to extend that to you all this evening. Thank you so much for giving us your time. And as I said before, my name is Matthew Wright-Simon, and we are here to talk about business innovation, the global goals, also known as the Sustainable Development Goals. Prize for that person over the back. I don't have prizes. And I think a lot of you would have just on your seats one of these. Has everyone got one of those on their seat? Okay. Who doesn't have a pen? Because I have a wonderful assistant here. I didn't even ask that person's name, who's got some pens. I just want to do something a little bit fun tonight as we go through proceedings. We're going to play Global Goal Bingo. Okay, so we've got 17 global goals, and just to show that you're all listening to the people that we're hearing from tonight, if you need a pen, what's your name?
Tom.
Tom, my stationery expert, will offer you a pen, which hopefully you can return, as it's a circular economy here at the Conservation SA, and they've kindly given me a packet of pens. So when you're listening in, if you hear somebody talking about reading small writing, life below water, so if someone's talking about something marine, you can circle Global Goal 14. We've got some prizes in the form of a book that we're about to launch tonight. But anyway, it's just going to be fun if somebody can call out bingo toward the end of the night. So our presenters this evening are aware that they might want to name drop the odd Sustainable Development Goal, and we see how we go. Okay. Tonight's all about having fun together, and there's time at the end of this as well to network. So thank you so much for, having your fill. And this event is being presented by the Australian Centre for Sustainable Development, Research and Innovation. And if you haven't met him, now is the time for you to meet Kuntal Goswami, Dr Kuntal Goswami, who's going to say a few words about tonight before handing back over to me. So please give him a warm round of applause.
Thank you, Matthew, and thank all the guests, and definitely I'd like to thank City Council of Adelaide for supporting it, and then Carbon Neutral, Eco-Profit, and of course Conservation Council of SA. So the sustainability, if we think from, especially in the Australian context, that we traveled a long way from the Franklin Dam saga of Tasmania, and that was a very big moment in the history of mankind in Australia, I will say. And so we came a long way, and definitely ex-Senator Mark and the council and the organization like Conservation Council all knows that they are the great people who are actually making the sustainability agenda alive, make us understand that sustainability, environment, conservation is important. Okay, so there was a lots of activism and awareness and all that, but fortunately we are in a situation globally and in Australia, more or less, somehow we are trying to acknowledge it. Okay, and people are, many green companies, green innovations are happening, and if you really want to know, definitely you visit Rebecca Sod's initiative, the carbon neutral Adelaide, and if you see in the directory of that, there are many companies who are bringing sustainability, carbon, green innovations and all that into the center of the business, and that is the most important thing. But we have to take it forward. We have to create an ecosystem where not that aspiration of sustainability is there, but we have to transform that sustainability aspiration into the day-to-day life, into the business. We have to integrate into it. Okay, and that's why so much important. What we need is to create an ecosystem for that. Okay, we have to create an ecosystem of green technology innovation in the universities. Then we have to give funding, green funding, not just any funding, sustainable funding. Okay, finance, the new area of finance is coming, carbon accounting, all those things has to be there. In addition to that, we have to give businesses and others the green innovations and all that, so that it can be commercialized and have a viable, sustainable business model. For that is we have to give a tax incentives and all that. So that is the reason today we are here. We have sustainable development goals also, but we also, that has to be integrated within our business. Not only in our business, we have to practice that. We have to integrate at every part of our life. Okay, so that is the reason today's platform, today's engagement, today's forum is to engage, dialogue, and idea. Who knows, from today's event we can get a great idea and someone can make a big things out of that. Thank you. Thanks all of you, and let's the event open. Thanks.
Thank you very much, Kuntal. And yeah, it's about connecting all of these different elements together and showing how that network growth can really accelerate and advance things as ambitious as the global goals. So I don't know if anyone's got any of their bingo numbers done yet, but what I thought we'd do is we have quite an exciting multi-site event this evening, because we have a presentation coming up that's in a different room. That's right. We're going to be moving around a little bit just to ensure that everybody's blood's moving, there's no deep vein thrombosis or anything serious like that happening tonight. I can assure you of that. So what I'd like to do is actually really welcome Councillor Frans Knoll up to the stage to say a few words as we launch a book that is, I can say a few words more about after Councillor Knoll has come forward, but yeah, please welcome Councillor Knoll to the stage.
Good evening. Nina Mani. And on behalf of the City of Adelaide, I'd like to acknowledge that we're meeting on the traditional country of the Kaurna people of the Adelaide Plains and pay respect to elders past and present. We recognise and respect their cultural heritage, beliefs and relationship with the land. We acknowledge that they are of continuing importance to the Kaurna people living today. And I wondered why when we do a lot of these more official events, why do we do, each speaker gets up and says that? And it's because, and I do that so that people understand, is that it's an individual, and we do that individually. So when you are coming to Kaurna land, each of us have this, and it's not just you do it once at the beginning and it's done. It's about each of us are recognising that, and it's a very personal thing, and that's how the culture actually, works and brings people in. And I would like to very much, and I didn't realise I was going to say something. I was invited, and appreciate Kuntal for doing that, and also about the book and etc., which I got a copy a little while ago, which I think is pretty fantastic, and also the Australian Centre for Sustainable Development and Research and Innovation, for the invitation. It's an eclectic, interesting way, because we're becoming in a very increasing community, and part of that is that I got to meet Darren, who's your keynote speaker, etc., at a random moment where we were looking at a machine that was dehydrating things, and between council and the building of tanks and things like that, and the engineer, and we had this group of people who were suddenly looking at something, and we come up with an idea, and hopefully I can talk about it when we get it down the track, this is how this works. And I think we just need to be aware that we all need to function together to create the solutions. In Adelaide and South Australia, we're smaller businesses and we need multiple partners to make things work. And I'm chair of the Northern Economic Leaders, and we're doing circular economy forums and workshops and things. And we're all working together, and we need people who have different problems that need the same solution. And the way you do that is by bringing them together and getting them to understand what that looks like. But it's also about business, and that's what this critical component is. Governments can do what they do, but business needs to see a profitable way of doing things, and you need to collaborate that. And by doing that here, we should be, and the whole idea is that the City of Adelaide, we want to be the leader, in which we are at this moment still, in sustainability, carbon neutral, and a strong focus in innovation and collaboration to counter climate change and support the circular economy, because that's the way I sell this. Circular economy is a solution for climate change. So people see an action rather than just this big thing. And I think that's critical for how we all need to do that. And working with others is how you achieve that. I mean, in our Carbon Neutral Adelaide Partnership Program, we now have 215, so Rebecca tells me, members in that. So, so we are growing, and that's really important. And I think if we think about this, we're able to, as a city, because we're small to medium-sized businesses, we survive by collaboration and working together, and by doing that, we can get ascendancy over the bigger states with what they're doing, and we can actually show how this works. And that closeness between, whether it's the business, the governments, the councils, everyone wants to do the right thing. How do we do it? And you start the conversation like this and create that opportunity. And I think if we're able to do that, then and have that drive, which a group like you have, then we're going a long way to be in front and start to innovate, because that's where you create wealth out of this. The innovation means that we are a provider of knowledge, and people buy that. And if we can do that through a whole eclectic bunch of people saying, I know what to do with that, and we come with multiple solutions, that means we have the variability to be able to deliver things. So I look forward to a very informative and enjoyable evening, and very much thank you for the invitation, and I appreciate that greatly. And our event is on the 28th of July in the Salisbury Hub, so please, I'm going to try to promote it as much as we can, because this is a beginning, because we want to engage all of Greater Adelaide in that, and get them to understand the actual ways that you make a difference, and start having those bigger conversations and work together so that we can deliver. Anyway, Natalia and Nakada.
Thank you very much, Councillor Knoll, and it is great to make a connection between what is happening globally, nationally, and here in Adelaide. I'm so impressed. Was it 250 carbon neutral Adelaide partners? 15, but rounding it up. Yeah. Look, we wouldn't be here if it wasn't for the wonderful hospitality of Conservation SA and, of course, the Joinery, this amazing venue, which is through an arrangement with the City of Adelaide, which is, again, a great way of activating a space and bringing community together. And not only is Craig a wonderful technician and a person who can help people feel comfortable when one thing might not plug into another, he's also the Chief Executive of Conservation SA and has been leading environmental organisations, is the peak body for environmental organisations here in South Australia, and part of this has been brought together by Craig's vision and the support of the volunteers who are with Conservation SA. So I thought, rather than me saying much more about you, Craig, would you like to say a few more words for yourself? Please give Craig a warm hand.
Thanks, Matt. I've never, ever been known for my technical skills. Breakthrough moment. Ninamani, I'd also like to pay my respects to Elders past, present and emerging, and acknowledge the ongoing relationship with the Kaurna people to the City of Adelaide and beyond. Thank you so much for coming along. It's lovely to see you all here. For those of you who don't know this space, it's as Matt said, we've been very lucky to be here for about 6 years now. It's owned by the Adelaide City Council, and we've been able to create, hopefully, a really welcoming and useful space for community. So there's lots of different groups that use it. Upstairs there's a range of different environmental, social, peace and other NGOs who are based here. We've got a community garden, community bike workshop, information space, cafe. So please check it out. We'd really love to have you back. To give you a sense of the kind of things we do, up on the board, that exhibition is by a gentleman who was actually sleeping rough in Victoria Square and started to observe all the amazing mushrooms and other fungi in the parklands and started capturing all the pictures. And over the course of months, he just captured these amazing images. For instance, the one third along and three down from the left, it lasts for just 2 hours and then disappears. Each of these bits of fungi have an amazing story, and we cherish the opportunity to share these kind of nature stories and life on land whenever we can, as well as the usual facilities like clean water and sanitation at our toilets up through that corridor there. But please, if you would like to know more about the Joinery or our work as the Conservation Council, with a peak body for the environment sector in South Australia, we've got some fantastic member groups who do some really wonderful work, and it's our job to support them, and as well as hopefully tell good stories around sustainability and nature. And if you'd like to support us, on the back, Kuntal has very kindly provided some donation details. It's the end of the financial year, the perfect time to pass over your hard-earned cash. And we'd love to receive it. So if you'd like to support us, please jump on. In the meantime, thank you to Matthew, thank you to Kuntal. I really appreciate the opportunity. Have a wonderful evening. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Craig. And it is wonderful to be at this venue and everybody pitching in to make it work, even realising, oh gosh, we needed extra chairs put out, so removing displays and making it all work. So I do really appreciate it. And yeah, please do support Conservation SA and the great work they're doing, including in advocacy. All right, you've heard a bit about a book. And this is a really special night for a number of people. Well, it's special for all of us, okay, and especially for those of you who are doing super well with your SDG bingo. But I would like to really officially launch the hidden successes of 3 sustainability policies. We've got a few of the copies of this book together, but we're just going to have a little bit of a gathering on stage and a few photographs. So I thought I'd call forward Dr Kuntal Goswami and the editor of the book, Alison Jane Hunter. If you could just come up to the front. I will acknowledge Professor Rolf Gerritsen, who is not here today. He's in Queensland, I believe. Alice Springs, but still too far away to be here tonight, but acknowledging his success this evening. So please do come forward, and I think we're just going to have a few photographs and give a few of these away as gifts. Oh, yes, and Councillor Knoll, yes, Mark Parnell, and also Winton. If you could just come forward, I think you've got gifts here, and I'll hand over to you.
Give one.
Yes.
You want to come in?
Thank you.
So this is the office. You can unwrap it.
Do you want to say a few words about it?
Oh yes, right. So thank you for opening it and unwrapping it. And if possible, you can go to the Amazon or into the SESDRI website resource page, and you can buy online and you can order it also the hard copy. Thank you for that. Thanks.
Okay, thank you. Enjoy the book. Don't read it until after the event. And actually, I think you were going to say a few words. I'll just invite you, just introduce you. And this is really a gathering of friends and collaborators for Kuntal, and really delighted to just invite Winton Evers here from EcoProfit just to say a few words about linking the sort of things that we're talking about in this book and here tonight to, I think, net zero. Is that what we're going to talk about? Fantastic. Over to you. Please give Winton a hand.
Please accept my apologies. Matthew, the name of the local Indigenous tribe? The Ghana. Look, I've never done this sort of type of presentation before, but let me say this. If we could be like the Indigenous people who cared about the environment, they were one with it, if we could be like that, then we will be a lot further advanced than we are now. I just want to say thank you very much, Kuntal, for having me here. He's a tremendous man, very self-effacing person. He's got a great work ethic, and he's on the money. I came here on the plane from Blue Mountains, and I was just like, you just catch this plane, and arrived in here, and it was like really nice to be here in Adelaide. It's got a really good vibe. I can tell you now, Sydney's got so hectic, but the thing is, the amazing part about it was, here I was, 1,000 kilometres away. I turn around, all these people just brought into Adelaide. It was just so easy. We can do it. And yet we're not doing it. The maths is this. There's 50 gigatons of greenhouse gases going up each year. We have to halve it. We have to halve it now. There's no net zero in 2050. We need to, and if we have the will, we can do it, like we've done in the past. But we need the will from our government leaders, we need the will right through our community, we need the direction, and that's why Kuntal's book's right on the money. We need to have the policy to drive this to help us get ahead. The good news is that in the conversion, there will be, it's a no-brainer in terms of how much richer we can get from a business point of view. If it's renewables, if it's energy efficiency, if we're leaders in the market, in your business, your day-to-day business, the business case for energy efficiency and renewables is without a doubt the way to go. And everything we do, so this can be such a positive thing, but we need the will. Thank you, Kuntal, for the book. It's right on the money. Thank you.
Okay, thank you so much, Winton. And I love the eclectic nature of this event. It's fantastic. And look, we have something very special tonight, a sideshow. And what that means is that over there on that side, there's a show. And I'm not joking. So what we've, Darren Lutzi has got a keynote presentation for us. And those of us without X-ray vision, we can wander into that side room. So there's, can you give everyone a wave, Darren? Great. Darren will introduce himself in the presentation. So we weren't able to have a backdrop and a presentation screen. So this is a memory task. You've got to remember where you're sitting now so you can come back to those seats in the future. But we're actually going to stand up and hang out in that room and just for 15 minutes enjoy Darren's presentation. Let's go to it. And remember, you can still do your bingo. And then we'll come back here for a wonderful panel discussion.
Go for it. Okay, if everybody's in, thanks very much, and I too pay my respect to past and present. I'm the CEO of a company called InconMat. We specialise in durability. We started back in 2009. I'd been exposed to a product called GFRP rebar, and I thought it was going to change the world. And I think it still will, but it didn't happen as fast as what I thought it would. So just go to the next one. when I was asked to put this presentation together, I put a bit of thought into it, and I come across this in one of my social media links. And to me, I keep looking at that statement: a society grows great when old men plant trees, the shade of which they know they'll never sit in. Now, we know that. Our forefathers didn't know that, and we can't look back, we have to look forward and leave a legacy. I mean, we all got children, we're all going to have grandchildren, and it's our responsibility to leave a better place. So, as you can see, running this type of business is not easy. That was 12 years ago, and I wish I still looked that good. But, and of course, my sister is my business partner, and we've got associated other shareholders as well. So back in those days, there was very little imagination for durability, which in fact goes hand in hand with sustainability as well. There was, the industry such as concrete galvanising associations, they've always been for the last 50 years trying to make steel and concrete more durable. It hasn't really worked like they expected to. So I'd enter into meetings with this bit of rebar I bought back from Canada back in those days. I say, I've got a solution for your problems. And people would say, what problems? We haven't got any problems, what are you talking about? And then because this behaves so much different than what steel does in concrete, they would say, well, even if we do have a problem, even if corrosion is costing us money, you're going to expect me to put my name to this product? No, there's no way in hell that's going to happen. So we started a journey, and the journey has taken lots of twists and turns, and no matter who you talk to, everyone has a different take on it. So imagine back in 2010, I'm this guy, I'm not an engineer, I'm a farmer, ex-farmer, truck driver, and I'm sure many engineering presentations I went to was like, who the hell's that guy? Who does he think he is? Asking me to take out steel and put this in concrete. But you got to understand, from an engineer's point of view, they're all about risk mitigation. And they didn't learn in engineering school how to design with this material. So to them, it was very risky. Why would we do this? And so there's a lot of fear. They don't know how to do it. And I was just mentioning before to France, with a project with Dipty back in the day, they went to one of their consulting engineers, and the engineer actually said, yeah, I don't know how to, but the conversation was, no, he can't. So what we've, and people, all of us, none of us really want to be the first with anything. You go to a sideshow, that looks like a great ride, but I don't want to get on there, I want someone else to do it first. And so engineers think about liability, responsibility, and even though you've said it's been done before, in another country, like before we started here, there's 20 years worth of projects in Canada, still successfully standing today, and they will be for hundreds of years. So it's been done before, so you'd tell people it's been done before, and then they say, but it hasn't been done in Australia. Goodness me, we've got a different sun or something here, but no, it hasn't been. And then even once you've done it in Australia, we've done it in Sydney, you go to Perth, has it been done there? I mean, goodness me. So that's me, like just confused, like how the hell, what's the problem? Next one. So what we did was we had to start listening really carefully what the pain points were. And for an engineering firm that have always followed the standards and the codes, what's in it for an engineer to change? There's really nothing. They have a business to run, they risk adverse. And then we have the competitive tender process, and that's prescriptive. So we might have a group of engineers that really like it, but they know it's going to take extra time to engineer with this product, so they don't put it forward. And even if there's a champion in the organisation and if he leaves, or he or she leaves, they lost. So the questions we get asked, is there any design software? And then you get project specified, as you're going to see in a minute. It's not that nothing was happening, but then it comes from overseas, and what about the risk to the project? And what I've learned over the last 10 years, there doesn't seem to be much incentive for anybody to innovate, which is really sad. And the amount of meetings that we used to go to, and I must say it's not as much as what it used to be, who cares? I'm not going to be around. And it's just dumbfounding to me, and to all of us it should be. We should care.
Sorry.
Right. So what we've done is we've become a specialised company. Yeah, sure, we sell products. That's what we do. That's how we're a commercial company. But we also understand that the in-depth multiple restraints that engineers and designers face, especially for products they've never learnt in university. So we've had to become an educator as well to move these products. So we assist, and what I want to say is it's so heartening now, after 10, 12 years in this space, is when we do engineering presentations, people actually pay now. Like before, you couldn't give these tickets away. We've always brought in international speakers. We've done that every year. We collaborate with universities. And so when we couldn't give our sandwiches away 12 years ago, now we're selling tickets $300 or $400 a ticket, and people are turning up to learn how to design with a sustainable material. So it's very, very heartening to see this. So in regards to listening, there's no software for this material. So for an engineering firm, they can't operate the same way as what they've always done with steel. So I always said, we're going to do some software, we're going to do some software. So I was doing a presentation similar to this a few years ago, and this professor from Kansas University comes up to me and says, I want to talk to you about software. And I couldn't wipe the smile off my face for about a week. It's what we've been looking for. It's the golden egg. Now engineers can operate in their offices at the same time frames and speed, with the same accuracy what they do with their steel design software. So we've just released this through back one. We just released this a couple of weeks ago through Engineers Australia, and we had over 430 engineers online at the presentation. So anyway, we keep skipping that slide.
It goes.
That's all right, no problem.
Yeah. Doesn't like. There we go.
So again, that's one of the software writers on the site, and that was presented a few weeks ago and about to go live on our website shortly. Next one. So corrosion, sustainability. It's a $13 billion a year problem in Australia, and remember what I said before, what problem? But that's fact, that's the problem, that's what it costs Australian taxpayers, community, business owners every year. So the corrosion problem, just some figures there in the middle. In 2016 ice roads, 12,000 concrete bridges, only 1% of them make their intended 100-year design life, and many start to deteriorate after 30 years. So there's definitely a problem. We have spent a lot of time, not a lot of time, that's not the word, we invest a lot of energy into collaboration with universities, leading universities around the country, including all 3 state universities here. These are presentations from the University of Southern Queensland, Professor Manalo. Yep. So again, listening, and this is commercial, we've now got all our contracts, investment on through, and by just a bit after Christmas we'll be making this locally in Australia, and that means from a software point of view, from an engineering point of view, to a supply point of view, we operate in the same type of manner as what a steel reinforcing company will do, but we're a GFRP reinforcing company. Yeah. So this is an interesting little project we did. It doesn't actually say that, you'll see it on the next slide. So sustainable procurement's come into vogue now as well. It's good to see. And they're adopting social and economic and environmental factors alongside the typical price and quality considerations. So traditionally everything has been on price. So a tender gets pushed out, everything gets down to the cheapest. So that's at the CapEx, and then the CapEx hand is not talking to the OpEx hand, and we've got these problems that we see. So the greater city of Geelong has used innovative procurement, which give us the opportunity to stop the normal process, go out and find solutions for real problems. And next slide. This project here, we ended up as a group of us, so Ostends, Rockler and Inconmat, can't even say our own name properly. We ended up getting together, we designed, Inconmat did all the engineering, Rockler supplied the geopolymer concrete, which is not Portland cement, so there's no CO2, or very little CO2, and we built these 2 bridges in Geelong, so the first one's built in the country. Yep. So this is just some snapshots. As you can see, it looks like steel. It's not steel, it's fiberglass. The concrete is all geopolymer, like I just said. I'm very, very proud to win this award in the last couple of days. I wasn't there, but Institute of Public Works Engineering Australia, we won the award for excellence in environmental sustainability, excellence in innovation and excellence in public works. And the amount of inquiries we're getting out of this is incredible, and from around the globe, not just Australia. So as I said before, we've always worked with universities. Alan Manalo, I've worked with him now since 2010. This here is a state of play of reinforcing materials. And just like everything else, it has to be made to a code and standard, but we won't get into all that now. Next one. Yeah. So this is a project, this is great. It's just a boat ramp plank. Now, when we started on this project with the Queensland Government Transport and Main Roads, they said, well, they last 30 years, what's the problem? And we said, well, why don't you have them last 100 years? And they go, well, what about if they get washed away in a storm? Well, you pick them up and put them back in again, because you now own this asset. It doesn't rust, it doesn't corrode, and you own this asset for the next couple of 100 years. So that's published on their website, and we built a lot of those boat ramps in Queensland. Most of our work is governments. Yeah, keep going. Now, what these two states have done, so New South Wales and Queensland, even though there's a code committee at Standards Australia, they've gone ahead and written their own codes. They couldn't wait, which is excellent. Keep going. So just a quick few snapshots of projects we've done. This jetty here is in Western Australia. All the concrete you can see is all reinforced with this material. Next one. Local jetty up here at Whyalla. We're supposed to have more concrete on that, but that's what happens when contractors get hold of things. That one there, that was done by a local engineering firm, WGA. They're a very professional company that's seen the light with this material right back in the early days. More jetties. Keep going. This here on Sydney Harbour, everything you can see here again is all reinforced with GFRP. And there's probably 30 odd projects being done now on Sydney Harbour. Sydney seawalls. It's used a lot also, nothing to do with sustainability, but it doesn't conduct electricity or signals, so it does interfere with signal loops. Wind farms. Go back one. Oh, and it also has another side, since we're having a big argument here in the state now about a nuclear waste dump, it doesn't radiate either, so it's good, it never radiates. Okay. Yeah, just many projects like this. Just push play on. Okay. So this project here, it's the first multi-storey building done in the world, and we're proud to say that we engineered it and supplied it. This has nothing to do with sustainability or durability, in fact. The reason this was used for is electron microscopes, and the signature that any steel or even stainless steel would interfere with the performance of those microscopes. So this building had to take into earthquake, fire ratings, all the general normal building codes, and so for the naysayers that used to tell us it can't be done, well, it can be done. If you want to build a jetty, we can build a jetty. We can build a multi-storey building. We've proven that. Yeah. Yeah, as you can see, anyway, it looks like normal steel, but it's really fiberglass. As I said before, we've always worked with universities. That's our collaboration strength. By working with the universities, young engineering students come out of the field very comfortable with the material because now it's part of their curriculum. With our software as well, that'll be rolled out to every engineering department in every university over the next 12 months or so to use free. Yep. So there's the two good-looking people there. So what we've done here, this is with the University of South Australia. All this is here, we can engineer all these sections, so these are driven piles in a jetty. We just wanted to do a study of these joint details, so that was a university student project as well. There you go. Again, this is with a fellowship grant in Queensland, so we're working with the Transport and Main Roads and the University of Southern Queensland. This is to develop a sustainable infrastructure, future-proofing their infrastructure up there. Yep. Yeah, this is, again, university projects. This is power poles, next one. So we've got 6 of those power poles going into WA Power next year as a trial. So they've all been engineered. And as you can see, concrete doesn't normally bend like that, but with this material, it's... we won't get right into it, we get to all engineering speak. Yep. Sorry. Now, so the other side of our business, which is something we've only just got involved with in the last, just before the pandemic, is bioenergy. So, as we all know, we all know these statistics. Food waste accounts for 3% of Australians' greenhouse. Millions of tonnes of food are wasted, and when food rots in landfills and creates methane gas, it's 25. That methane is about 25 times more damaging to the environment than carbon dioxide. And all we care about, or seem to care about, is carbon dioxide. So there's a number of companies. We really only just started in the industry to supply anaerobic digester tanks, and now that's morphed into engineering from the beginning. Supply, build, construct the whole way through. So there's many types of feedstocks that we can use. restaurant waste, cow manure, all this type of thing. And with anaerobic digestion, we can scale very quickly, whereas with the buzzword hydrogen, that's a discussion for another night. So there's a lot of community project opportunities. Okay. So we were very pleased.
Can I just check, Darren? I'm so sorry to interrupt. We will have our panel discussion fairly soon. How are we going?
About 3 minutes.
Wonderful.
Yep.
Thank you.
So we were very pleased to see the signing of that agreement yesterday. That's going to help our industry. Yep. Keep going. So this is. I've been told to hurry up. So this is our.
Sorry, Darren.
Keep going. So. This is a community project in Toronto that we're trying to establish in Australia with varying different people. So it's actually Toronto, what do you call it? It's zoo share. So the zoo waste and the waste from the community will go to this process, which is great. Just play that video and then we'll finish it up. So that's some of our partners. We've got about 5 different partners. Next one. That's a biogas plant. So waste to energy, and also through plasma technology we're turning methane into hydrogen as well. But that's a whole other story. Yep. That's what our tanks look like when we're constructing them. Yep. Some of our partners, Enpro Envirotech, Dr Jane Kesker couldn't be here tonight. Yep. And
a society grows great when old men plant trees, the shade of which they know they will never sit in. Good people do things for other people. That's it, the end.
And that really is the end. And I think we're in good hands.
Thank you so much. I'm sorry to hurry you along. Yep. And just for anyone who's feeling hot, we turned the heating off and opened up the doors for some cross ventilation. Thank you again, Darren. I really appreciate it. And thanks for your flexibility for the slideshow. If we go back to our seats, we've got opportunity for questions with a panel. And but charge your drinks, and we'll start in a couple of minutes. I'd love to summon our lovely panellists to the front here. A good opportunity to have a bit of a chat. You could sit wherever you like, as long as you're facing the audience. I thought that'd be friendly. And we've got one microphone to share here at the panel, and also Avi over there, who's been an absolute champion helping me out this evening. Avi will be able to hand the microphone around the audience if you have a question, but I thought we'd just start with really enabling our panellists to introduce themselves, because they actually know more about themselves than I do, and probably you. So we've got a really great panel of people connecting up all of those things that Kuntal and Councillor Knoll were talking about. And so I just thought I'd hand over. Now, I'm wondering if, Ashish, you could pass the microphone across here to Jacob, or do we start at that end? We can do that. Oh, actually, you shotgun not going first.
Yeah,
I'm so sorry.
There,
I'm sorry.
That's all right.
Okay, Jacob, please let people know who you are and what's going on.
Hello, everyone, and thank you for inviting me down here to Adelaide. Now, I don't know the normal customs of how you guys have said it, which I've heard tonight, so I'll just say thank you to the elders that are living and past from our Aboriginal communities. Now, I've been invited down mainly about innovation funding. I've been in this space for over 10 years, working from non-for-profit sectors to the energy markets to multiple now natural sectors. Now, the reason I'm here is purely because we're finding a lot of businesses, small and large, are applying for the R&D funding from the government wrong. They're misconceiving what actually qualifies as R&D, thinking that it has to be building a rocket ship to go to outer space or developing brand new medications. It can be as simple as a company developing a new way to handle their waste products. It can be a company developing new ways to save costs while developing a project, which helps them employ more staff. The R&D incentive was built and created for businesses that are taking on challenging work. That could be at any industry in any position. Now, for anyone that does have questions tonight, feel free to come and ask me. I don't feel like doing a sales pitch to all of you, because I'm sure on a Friday night, none of you want a salesperson speaking to you. It's a weekend we're coming towards. But when it comes towards the R&D, if you have questions that you want to know about your industry, know about your companies you're working with, feel free to ask. Happy to go through it, happy to explain them to you. That is what the R&D panel is about, and that is why I talk to people quite regularly. So that's the easiest introduction of myself. Not too much in detail. As my wife says, I'm pretty boring outside of work. So I'll pass it across.
That's not true. I'm disagreeing with your wife all of a sudden, and thank you so much, Jacob, for starting us off. Alice, would you like to tell us a little bit about yourself and what you're up to at the moment?
Yeah, thanks, Matt. Thank you for having me, everybody. Nini Mana. I know this space very, very well because I've been involved here in Adelaide with the Conservation Council for a long time, but recently moved on to a new path, a new way of being able to look at how I can tackle the climate crisis and ways in which we might be able to shift some economic levers that I haven't been able to so far in my journey and career to date. So myself and my co-founder commenced a startup business, an innovation tech startup called Val AI or Valuation AI some 18 months ago. Val AI is based here at the University of Adelaide at ThinkLab, and we've worked and partnered with the University of SA, University of Adelaide and the Australian Institute of Machine Learning over that time to derive a novel product. So this is an automated sustainability rating tool for residential properties. It provides for homes the sustainability rating, the energy efficiency rating, the risk rating, and the climate impact, including the carbon footprint of the household. And we're seeing it as an opportunity to be able to work with large financial corporations and the insurance sector to do a couple of things. One is to meet their task force for climate-related financial disclosures, where they do need to report their Scope 3 on all of their assets, including residential assets that might sit on their loan portfolios or on their risk profiles. But also to use it as an opportunity to engage household and consumers here in Australia for them to be upskilled on what sustainability and resilience of a home means for them. And also to use it as a way to be able to challenge the finance sector and the energy sector to be able to motivate householders to decrease their energy usage, look to free up cash flow, and ultimately ensure that the well-being of Australian consumers can be increased because of us being more climate focused and working together towards a more sustainable future. So it's a big ambitious goal that we have. We're a very small startup. We know that from our background, so I'm from a sustainability and STEM background. My co-founder's from a property valuation background. We are not tech heads. We haven't done the degrees we need to be able to code ourselves or to do the ML models. But we know that through collaboration, a lot more can be achieved, and the ability to be able to achieve at scale can only happen if we all work together. So we've really looked to tackle this space saying that while we might usually exist in a little pond ourselves to the left looking at climate action, we know that the only way that we're going to be able to create the change that we know society needs is if we can bring government, industry and large financial corporations along for the journey. And so we're looking to be able to act as that conduit to bring everyone together to look at a solution that benefits people, planet, but also profit. So for your bingo tonight, we're working on sustainable cities and communities and also climate action.
Fantastic. I love that you are calling out the bingo numbers. It's brilliant. Look, it's great to just go down the line. So Associate Professor Ashish Malik, would you like to tell us a bit about you and what you're up to?
Thank you. Thanks for having me. And I begin by paying my respect to elders past, present and emerging. I work at the University of Newcastle in the Newcastle Business School, and I'm the head of the management discipline. So as an academic, I've got 3 jobs to do. We teach all of what is being talked about here, but we also do research in exactly these areas, and then we engage with industry to make it relevant for and design solutions. So more specifically to your point, what I've been up to and what brings me here and what my interest is. So I started my career with my training in managing people, and that's been my field of research. And then I evolved into leadership, management, change, and then I started looking at innovation and change. Then I started looking at how work is organized in knowledge-intensive industries, and then the whole issue of the way work is organized, is it really sustainable, used to catch my attention all the time, not only from an economic perspective, but also from a social perspective, from an ethical perspective, and from a sustainability general perspective. So that got me into collaborating with colleagues in other disciplines, and I do work, quite a lot of work outside of the business school. I work with the engineering faculty. I've also got collaborators in the health and medicine space. So my most recent work on sustainability theme and innovation is focusing on the circular economy. And not only that, we did a study on a range of how can we have sustainable business models in this space to really make it work. And to your point, Ali, I think I've also started doing some work in the field of artificial intelligence and how it impacts your business models and how important it is. And here's another plug for those of you playing the bingo. So artificial intelligence is going to have an impact on a number of sustainability development goals, and a very common one is gender equity and quality of work or decent work. So it's going to affect a number of areas, and my interests there comes naturally coming from people management or HR as they call it in our field. So apart from that, I gave the earlier example of I work with engineering colleagues. So we have up at the University of Newcastle a global advanced innovation center for nanomaterials. So it's called GCAN, and there's a lot of work that is happening on, I think there was an earlier discussion on carbon neutrality or zero carbon zero. So there's a lot of work that is happening on creating advanced nanomaterials that can capture carbon from the environment. And it's such a powerful and amazing field. How can we generate clean energy? How can we generate, energy that can be stored and transported quite easily? And now the next big thing that's happening at the uni is, using hydrogen and then transporting hydrogen and so on and so forth as another form of clean energy. So some really exciting research is happening. And again, one would ask, what am I doing here with a business degree and a business background with scientists there? So my role is there to look at whether or not these people are able to commercialize whatever advanced nanomaterials they're making. Because typically, you have a science project or nearly only 5 or 6% of most science projects end up in a successful commercial project. So my role is to look at how we can successfully commercialize some of these big ticket items that have got such a significant role to play in clean energy, carbon capture, and energy storage. So very exciting times. Thank you.
Fantastic. Thank you, Ashish. That's a very, very broad selection of things. So I'll tell you what, if there aren't questions about to burst from you, I don't know what's going on. And we've still got Fiona down the end. Fiona Hancock, could you tell us a bit about yourself? What are you up to? Where are you from? That sort of thing.
Thank you. So I'll begin by also adding my respects to elders past and present. I am from Adelaide. I've always lived in Adelaide. It's a bit tragic, but I work for Ernst & Young, or EY. Hopefully some of you in the room are familiar with it, with EY. They are an accounting firm principally, but we actually have people who are not accountants there. So I've got an engineering background, and we actually have a quite significantly sized climate change and sustainability team. We've got 8 in Adelaide and around 250 across Australia and New Zealand. And that number's growing really quickly, which reflects the prominence of this area with clients. So EY are certainly trying to do things themselves, and there's certain sustainability goals that they're making initiatives to progress, things like gender diversity. It's already been said, I know. But another one that they're really putting the weight behind is climate action and clean energy, affordable and abundant clean energy. I think it is something like that. And that is both within our own operations. So we have ourselves committed and achieved carbon negativity. We're carbon negative now, and we are aiming for net zero by 2025. So that's less reliance on offsets and more absolute reduction. And that's a global target. But where we really see the impact we have is what the work we do with clients. So the firm's invested a lot in this area more broadly. We have formed what we've called the Net Zero Centre, which I'm very fortunate to be part of. It's quite a small team, but what it really does is it sits across all of the firm, across all our service lines, to try and bring together the best of what EY has to help clients navigate the challenges of decarbonisation, and really big clients who are very heavy emitters, across Australia. So I guess our role, and particularly my team, so I did say I'm in the climate change and sustainability team as well as this net zero centre. I lead the climate change team across Oceania, and we have so many really purpose-driven, ambitious people who are really there to challenge our clients. So we will assist clients with assurance over greenhouse emissions, with decarbonisation strategies, looking at climate risk and opportunity assessments, those sorts of things. It's a very, very broad spectrum, and that's just the climate change team before I get into the sustainability stuff. But our team really do challenge the clients, and I think that's where we do have the most impact. So if we're helping clients with a sustainability strategy, we'll be pushing them, and we'll be doing so with good justification and the business case to do so. But that is how we are really driving impact, I think.
Fantastic. Thank you, Fiona. And I'd like just to give a round of applause, actually, to our panel. Thank you. And look, so I've got another question to ask you a bit later, but I'd really love to open it up to the audience. And Avi's got a microphone and is looking for anyone for a question. Now, what I'd ask you to do is to direct your question to Jacob, Alice, Ashish, or Fiona, if you have a particular question, or if it's just general, just to the panel. But I'd love some courageous, good-looking, charismatic, you don't have to be a Gemini, you could be any star sign, I don't mind, but does anyone want to ask a question of our wonderful panel? Craig can even ask questions, it's unbelievable. Craig.
Thank you. Really okay. Sure. Really wonderful to hear all your different stories, and there seems to be a real theme around innovation and bringing new ideas on quickly, and very conscious that in terms of climate, we've got just this narrow window of opportunity to make a difference. We're talking about 5 to 7 years to really, really transform things. Really keen to get your thoughts around what needs to happen in terms to pick up the scale and pace of what is happening. Because you've all talked about the good things that are happening, but it's not going to be enough. Like, we need more. So how can we increase the ambition across government, business and community to make sure we actually meet the challenge of our time?
Fantastic question. And that was very lucky they didn't break. Thank you so much for that question, Craig. And I'm quite happy for a number of you to jump on this, because we need everybody to work together, right? So, Fiona, do you want to start us off?
I'm happy to kick off, and I think, and I'll probably talk at very highest, very general level. I think policy certainty, which is something that's been sorely missing in Australia in the past decade or so, will go a long way. And I think hopefully I'm optimistic that we're starting to get somewhere on that. And finance, to me, that is the other, the one that is really going to move the masses. And I think we're starting to see that now in terms of how we actually facilitate that. Disclosure certainly helps, and standardising reporting frameworks. And again, that's what gives me so much optimism, is we've seen so much movement on those things in the past couple of years.
Okay, I'll also add a little bit there, wearing my management education hat. We did a paper a couple of years ago, and we called it the quadruple helix. And what that did was basically, for any major change management initiative, whether it's at an organizational level or a national level or a global level, you're going to look at three key stakeholders. That's academia, industry, and government. And then, to your point, you've got to make somehow make them work together, and that is the biggest problem. So most of the times you have academics speak a funny language, industry doesn't understand what we say, or government doesn't understand what industry wants, and so on and so forth. So we came up with so we built on the triple helix, these traditional three stakeholders, to the quadruple helix, which is about creating a community of practice of facilitators, someone like yourself, Matthew, and others who are engaging with the community and creating a network where people have established a sense of trust to come together and work together to solve these issues. And we applied this in many industry contexts of change. And I think the same principles can be extended there for climate change. Yeah.
I'm just going to keep it real and say I 100% agree with you. But having tried to work with industry, government and large universities, they're very risk-averse beasts. They take a long time to do things and their internal policy and process is really, really slow. Sure, it meets their needs, but it isn't quick enough for the action that we require. And I think the one pivotal point that I think South Australia has got on board with and we could do more of in this country is looking at the startups and the innovators to be able to be that additional wheel in the process, because we're nimble, we're flexible, we're quite new in terms of not having arduous policy that's blocking any change, and also we are not we're not risk averse, which means we can fail. In fact, we're actually motivated and quite often through incubators and other things, you're challenged that you need to continue failing because that's the only way we're going to succeed. And I think the more that large corporates are prepared to back multiple startups to give things a go, the more likely we are to be able to find the successes that we want. And then with that kind of runs on the board, have the ability to be able to lobby government to back those things more formally in policy. But that does come with a need, and that's a need to have more people continuing to create new startups and give things a go, to have the ecosystems and the support functions there through universities and others to allow people that don't have a university degree to try and solve the world's problems. But it also requires the funds. And quite often with all the startups I've worked with here and globally, you may have left a career to be able to take a punt on a solution, or you may be someone who's starting out as a graduate from university and you don't have the own personal net wealth behind you to be able to do what you'd like to. So the philanthropy model from the US is very important, and we haven't adopted that enough in our country yet, in that we can invest in other new ideas, even if we are sprinkling and diversifying our funds and our investments, because there may be one unicorn in 100 that will be the right offering. And the more that the masses can continue to back small ideas, the more likely we are to be able to succeed.
I'd actually like to agree with that policy completely on dealing with startups. The issue we've been finding recently for the startup market across Australia is most of them don't understand the work they handle is quite innovative. They know they're doing something new, they know they're doing new work, but they don't know how to access the funding. Now, from any of you in the room here who's ever tried to get funding for projects that have had to start a campaign or even had to cancel a campaign or project they've worked on from fear of loss of money, the reality is that is the essential part of business. When it comes to the research and development funding, it's there to reward you for the effort you've put in already. Now, at the current time with the ATO's just adjustment to the investment ratio, it actually works out to be 43.5% of every cent you've allocated towards R&D. Now, that's not just your consumable costs. We're talking about here your contractors, your employees' wages, your utility bills. It's been put in place so when you are actually trying new projects, trying new developments, you can receive large sums of money. I'll give an example of one of my current clients that we're working with. Now, I can't go into too much detail as they are still working on their final prototype. They're a company that deals with turbines and wind turbines across Australia. Now, they've been working on these for the last 3 years and didn't know they could access the R&D funding because they thought they had to be in a medical field to actually qualify for it. Now, under their work alone, we were able to find over $450,000 worth of allocated R&D funding. For them, we got back over $230,000 and helped them hire 2 extra staff members. That is what the funding is for. It's been put in place. It's been going now since 1987. So we've had it for multiple years, but the beautiful thing we're seeing now from the Australian government is they're starting to add more industries. Things that weren't around 5 years ago are a part of the application periods already. The applications have gone down from taking 12 months they can be qualified down to 4 to 5 weeks to be paid by the government. This money can come as a cash injection to your business when you are trying new projects and dealing with losses. When your company's quite got more successful, it can be taking away your corporate tax, which is why we need more companies that are willing to actually do more projects, to realize that they can obtain funding. Know that they shouldn't just stop a project, they can just start something new. If they do fail a project, that is great. That is research and development. Try and create a new microwave. Fail with the microwave, claim it back, develop a new project. More and more inventions and more development we have, the quicker we'll get to a better sustainable future. But that's all I really got to say on that.
I love that you're organising funding for failure. I mean, I wish I'd met you like decades ago. I'd be so wealthy. It's unbelievable. Look, I just think this is a wonderful, harmonious, this is like a quartet harmonising together. And we've got a question over here. Mark, would you like to ask a question of one or more of our panellists? We need to turn that on.
Mark Parnell, I was 15 years a member of the South Australian State Parliament for the Greens. A lot of people have been talking tonight about how we make people do good things, you know, whether they're small startups or big companies or whatever. The flip side of that is how we stop people doing bad things. Now, I noticed that the recent Nobel Prize for the Environment, or I think that's what they call it, the Goldman Prize, one of them went to a Friends of the Earth spin-off, a group called Market Forces. And basically they're one of those NGOs that tries to get ordinary folk like us to pay more attention to where our money is. You know, where's our super being invested? I know, for example, when I was in Parliament, we found out that our superannuation was being invested in tobacco. And here you've got people in the health department whose job it is to stop people smoking, and their retirement money is invested in tobacco. So I guess my question, I don't mind who answers it, but what role, if any, is there for citizen action, for communities to hold big corporations to account and tell them, you know, by withdrawing our money, for example, that we're not happy with them investing in new coal mines, for example?
Great question, Mark. There is an enormous opportunity for everyday citizen with the emergence of the importance of data and your own personal data, and the amount of power that can wield and influence towards your own future is enormous. So here in Australia, open banking, for example, is something new that's emerging. It's been around in Europe and other places for quite some time, but what that allows you to do is it allows third parties to be able to access your personal bank details with your permissions in place and all the securitisation frameworks that are required and T's and C's ticked, to help you shop around for better deals, or to utilise your personal transaction data to help you reach your personal goals. So that might mean a carbon tracker that tracks where you walk through Google Maps on your phone. That might mean they can compare every energy consumption, water, natural gas bill that you have to find a better retailer that's in your area. It is something as a wave that's coming to Australia, and it will be here this year. There is the factor of the shock of the fact that the banks and everybody else has that data. What's most important is you will now have the ability to be able to utilise that data for good, because ultimately it's open source data that belongs to you, and you can utilise that in an innovative way to make sure that we are no longer beholden to the financial services group that we've been stuck with as a bank since we were Dolomite kids. And it allows the industry to also be disrupted in a way that means that you as a consumer can take your wares and go elsewhere super fast, because through open banking transactional data, it's your data. You can port that to a new bank, get a better deal and switch over automatically. So that is going to have an enormous amount of power for good, I believe, as long as those messages are communicated to the everyday consumer that it's your data and you can use it to find what aligns with your values.
I feel empowered. Fiona, what can you add?
I'll just take it slightly different. I love the question and I love your sort of perspective of that with data. That's sort of not my area. But what I have seen is just the influence that some of the activist investors have had in the past few years has been incredible. And the support that some of those resolutions that they're raising is starting to get from the larger institutional investors, and that's having a huge impact. Some of them are actually even passing. So the number of resolutions that have been raised has gone up exponentially, but the support that they're getting has also really risen. So it's not just these small activist investors. And I think, that comes from the masses, the individuals who are starting to put pressure on the superannuation funds. They're starting to sort of indicate, where they want their money, or, for other investors, and those superannuation funds are now backing these resolutions. Then they're putting pressure on the corporates, who are the ones who are emitting. So I think we've started to see it have action, but there's a long way to go.
Just on that, I'll just very briefly add that there's a new movement on AI for good, AI for how can we leverage democratization of your own data. So that movement is picking up, and it's variable from one country to another, the extent to which the uptake or the awareness of that is. But I think public awareness and such events, or just a general, we are so technologically connected now. I think it's much easier now to create awareness than it was, say, 10, 20 years ago. Yeah.
All right. This is exciting. I'm learning heaps. It's brilliant. And we have a gentleman over here who might have a question. Kuntal.
Okay, hello. So one question for Jacob and few others. So firstly to Jacob. So yes, it is a great idea that we'll be getting lots of money through tax rebate and all that. But the question is that for a small and medium company, how easy to do the application process and the technical knowledge? Because hiring a company like you, Brookwood, must be very costly and all that. So is it a small and medium-sized company who are, especially in the startup area, they don't have much money? Okay, so do you think they can hire a firm like yours and get the benefit of that? And also the same chance that to Ali, that on sustainable finance, how easy the sustainable finance, is it still a big aspirational thing, or really sustainable finance is growing? And for Fiona and Professor Assis, that sustainable development talk, it's a big thing, but how do you think we can bring it to small and medium? The big companies, they can afford it. So that's, so one way.
So good question. The main thing you do want to look for when you are looking for a firm, if you don't have the knowledge of the claim, is to make sure that they're a firm that works purely off a success base. If you're hiring a firm that wants an upfront cost, or they'll tell you, oh, we're going to charge you this amount and we'll put this much time towards your project, it just won't work out to your best interests. A lot of the times for small and new companies, you won't know what your work is as R&D. Now, that's not saying you don't know what you're doing. The reality is, we find in a normal and small to medium firms, normally you can pick and allocate about 20 to 40% of your R&D activities. Using a firm, it is quite important. That's why the company I work for exists. We find the additional axes you can qualify for your R&D, whether that be your sales staff needs to know how to communicate this product to the market, whether it be the software licensing for certain technology you've had to get, whether it be the constant changes the ATO puts out. As last 3 days, the ATO has actually publicized the new reports on how to claim R&D and how to access the funding on the percentages you can claim, which is quite relative to the old ones we had, but the way you actually calculate it has changed. So to a company like you were saying that is new, that doesn't know what they're doing, my suggestion is, yes, go to a firm, but make sure they work on a success base. Get them to work rather than a percentage cost telling you how much they're going to charge you. Get them to go for a percentage of the claim. Mainly because they know then the more they get for you, the more they'll get for themselves. They'll dedicate more time, more hours, more resources, and they will chase you up. I cannot tell you how many times I've worked with clients that go, oh, I'll get to this next week. I'll look at that in a couple of days, and they just don't get around to it. I call, I'll email them, I'll even turn up to some of them at their shops. Talk to them about the projects they handled. And one of my recent clients just last week in Western Australia, he fought me tooth and nail to process his report. He had absolute belief there's no money for him until last week when he received a check for $175,000. I got a call the next day saying, thank you for my idea. It was a great idea. Next year you should come to me instead. So coming from the area of not wanting to do it, just having the ideas that there are people out there, there are firms, there are organizations that will work with you. Work with a company that has a success rate. Our company, for example, we're on 100% success just because we hire in a different process. Rather than having, I don't know, who here in this room works in the tech space? Anyone work in the technology space here? All right, cool. Do you have a perfect understanding of the finance? No. The reality is, when you're trying to communicate your projects and what you're dealing with to people across, do they always understand how you're talking about it? Or do they struggle a lot? That's the same with the claims. What we do different is we'll make sure a tech will talk to a tech. A finance will talk to a finance. It means you can get more out of your claim because you're having the same communication. If we keep people in separate areas where an accountant will talk to an IT developer or talk to a person making bread, they won't really know the processes, they won't know what you can claim. But when you get someone from the same background talking to the same person, they have more of an understanding. By getting more of an understanding, you can get more out of your processes and get more money out of the claim. And yeah, that's how I'd probably answer that question for you.
I think mine was sustainable finance and the uptake. I guess to paint the picture, sustainable finance is a thing that's been around for a long time. A lot of institutions in insurance, reinsurance, and finance have been looking at it for a very long time. But the reason why they've been able to do so is they're generally talking about it in terms of commercial property. And in that ecosystem, digital twins exist. So when it comes to reporting on an asset, such as a large building, and looking at how you can fund that or reinsure that or enter it into sustainable finance or even green tag it for the green bond market, they have the data they need to be able to report on that asset and be able to do so. But sustainable finance for the everyday consumer is something quite new. There are certainly, through our experience in the Global Open Finance Challenge and working with UBS on their Sustainable Finance Initiative, there are lots of opportunities that are happening globally, particularly in Netherlands and others that are more forward-facing. Here in Australia, some of the Tier 1 and Tier 2 banks have whole teams. I know one very large institution that's had 70 staff working on a sustainable finance product for retail consumers for the past 2 years. It hasn't come out to you to be able to utilise or access because the feedback we get when we've challenged them as to why this isn't being put out into the market is because they don't need to be the first player. They don't need to disrupt their brand awareness and they're unsure of the risk to those people that might be risk averse to or uninterested in engaging in green policy or sustainability at all. But they are all playing in the space and they're all waiting for the early adopter to be able to launch. What that does mean though is it's a disservice for the retail consumer right now. There are other ways in which products are being brought to the market. So there are home loan opportunities where if you can show the sustainability rating or the energy efficiency rating of your home, then you can get a cheaper home loan. There are lower interest rates, etc. There's also personal loans that I, even just in the last 6 months with the change of government, have been really excited to see that they're actually thinking about. So that is bundling options. Just like you can buy anything online with a credit card, we should be able to, as consumers, if we want an EV vehicle, be able to bundle that with a charging port and the solar for our roof in one personal loan. So these are things that are coming. But the feedback that we've been seeking, which is why, if you've been talking about these, why aren't they on the market for consumers now? The feedback we get is there isn't the consumer demand for these products yet. And when there's a tipping point of interest, then we'll be looking to be able to enter those out onto the open market. So a lot of banks, financial institutions and insurance agencies, they do have better deals for you already. They just don't sit front and centre on the homepage of their website. The products are there, you just have to go and actually find them. And for everyday consumers, it's not something, because we're all time poor, that we spend our time on. But the opportunity is to go to your current financier and talk to them about what their sustainable finance options are. They may not be packaging them as green because they're also risk averse and they don't want to be seen to be greenwashing, particularly if they're investing finances elsewhere. But they may have opportunities where for them, they're looking at their risk profile. They have to de-risk assets that are sitting on their loan portfolio in order for them to meet the standards that their shareholders require. And so for some of them, they're even looking at just simply gifting you the solar, for example, in order for you to be able to still be low enough risk for them to maintain you as a customer. And we spoke with Munich Re last year looking at their their forecast for the next 10 years for insurance globally. And there's whole pockets of Australia where, from a risk perspective, they feel that either one, they will choose not to allow insurance agencies to insure because of where they're located climatically, or that they feel that the premiums are going to be so high that the everyday consumer is not going to be able to have the home loan, the home affordability to be able to remain a customer. So what motivates them is consumers wanting to remain a customer and new customer acquisition. So again, a good opportunity for us as individuals to collaboratively go and look and research who we're already dating or in bed with in terms of our financial services, and go and see whether they can give you a better deal, because they can. And ultimately, the better and more energy efficient your lifestyle is, the more they want you as a customer and the more money it will make them. And I know that that sounds quite crass, but that is the economics that we live in here in Australia, in the first world. That is the way things are working. But by motivating the large corporates, by the drivers that they have, I think we will get further with our SDG goals.
Thank you very much. And Ashish, just before you chime in, what I thought we could do to ensure we just wrap things up as a panel, and we've got, you can be here for another half an hour as well to mingle. We're just sort of bringing things to a close. So what I thought I'd ask each of you is, what do you think, if you could, influence everybody in this room to do one thing to advance the global goals, any of them, doesn't matter how many, but really just to improve outcomes more broadly around carbon neutrality, net zero, all of the types of things that we've talked about, what would that one action be? And maybe, Ashish, you can start us off as you have the microphone. You have the power.
All right. If I have the power, I must do it. So this is the message for everyone. We are our own agents of change. And if we look at it from the point of view of what are the little things that I can make in my lifestyle, in my daily routines, that's going to have an impact on the bigger issues. It's all going to add up. Every bit counts. So be the agent of change.
Thanks. I think if I take even the small to medium enterprise, I'll try and sort of combine it with that question before. I think that part of the answer is actually in the question that don't try and do too much. So what we see a lot of clients do with the SDGs is that they show how they're aligned to all of them pretty much, or how they're not negatively contributing to most of them, but not actually really focusing on how they're positively going after one. So I would say pick one, or at most three, and actually really look how you're advancing it and not just negatively contributing to it.
Fantastic. Alice?
I think we just need to do one thing every day. It doesn't matter how big or small it is. Everything's contributing. We are in this room because we know what the SDGs are. We're committed to them in some way. Our values are aligned to them. But does your nearest neighbour know that? Are there ways that you can communicate that to other people? So even if they don't know that they're SDGs, even if they don't care, even if from a behaviour change perspective, the green agenda, the SDGs don't matter to them in their everyday, maybe there's ways that you can motivate them that they will change their behaviour in a way that will contribute to us reaching the goals anyway.
For myself, I'd probably say talk to more of your friends about it. The reality is we all have friends that post on Facebook, on all social medias, try and tag things that they don't actually believe in. If you catch any of your friends posting a topic, ask them about it. Ask them why that's important to them. Ask them how they can do that and what they can do to improve. Because the more people are talking about the issues, the more people that are actually getting involved with the projects, rather than just pasting something out there to get likes, the more we'll improve as a society.
Fantastic. I want everybody to give this panel a big round of applause. Thank you so much for your wisdom, your energy and your generosity. And speaking of generosity, Kuntal's just organised a small gift for each of you, which he'll hand out now. And just while he's doing so, I'm wondering...
Before we do that...
Oh, we have one quick question?
From Aaron.
We've got time for a very quick question.
What can we do in school to make a difference for sustainability?
Great question. I'll let one person answer this just because we're getting late in the night. Who?
You can go to your principal with your teacher's permission and you can say, I would like to talk to you about why this is important to me. And then you can go and ask all your other friends to come and join you, and you can all say collectively that it matters to us and what can the school do to help us with our learning more about it.
Thank you, Alice, and thank you for your question. Fantastic. That's a great way to work with leadership, and thank you for your leadership in asking the question. Now, just please, Kuntal, share those gifts, and while you're doing that, I'm actually going to see who got 3 SDGs. Come on, we're just checking the bingo. There is a book prize. Who got 4? Come on, how many did you get? Who got what? Someone got the whole thing? Oh, you again? All right, we have a prize winner down the back. Thank you. I don't actually know your name. Arian. Arian is the winner of this book. And anything else that Kuntal may give away as a prize? And how did anyone else go? There can be more than one winner. I'm sure that Kuntal will be very happy to offer a second prize. How many did you have? 13. Fantastic. Well, let's give both of our bingo winners a round of applause. Well done. Okay, and while Kuntal is offering thanks, and we'll do a photograph beforehand, but I want to thank you so much for sharing this evening with us. Thank you to New India and Cafe 228 for the delicious food, which they would love you to keep eating and enjoying. We've got the venue until 8 o'clock, but I really appreciate you've been a wonderful and very flexible group. And thank you, Kuntal, for this. Okay, sure. Okay, that's a wrap. Thank you.
So